Hey there, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network. And I want to take just a moment to tell you about another show on our podcast network that I think you'll love. The EduData podcast is your no-fluff guide to the data driving higher education. Forget about data silos and disconnected stacks. Timothy Davis and Jamie Boggs, two of Element 451's data analysis experts, bring you straight into the heart of the numbers that matter. With sharp commentary and rigorous research, our hosts break down complex data points and actionable insights you can use. Whether you're an administrator, educator, or just a higher ed enthusiast, EduData is your key to unlocking the data behind academia. New episodes drop every Friday morning, and you can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search the EduData podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where each week we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade focused on student support and digital experiences. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. The Higher Ed Geek Podcast is a part of the Enrollify Podcast Network, a robust collection of shows designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. We are here with our final interview of South by Southwest EDU 2024. So if you're keeping track, this is how we're wrapping up our series of interviews here. It's been amazing to talk with a lot of awesome folks here in person. So just very grateful for this opportunity. Appreciate organizers helping to make this happen. But this last one is an interesting one. Local organization working that I know I'm going to feel like I'm going to be learning as much as our audience is about the great work that they've been doing over the past 25 years. Is that right?
Yes.
So yeah, we're really excited to get into it. We'll start as we always do. Eva, if you want to introduce yourself, your professional background, and what led you to where you are now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eva Rios-Lleverino, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director at Capital Idea. We are a workforce development nonprofit organization. We actually identify ourselves as a workforce intermediary. And what we do, we work with employers in the Central Texas area, identifying careers that are in demand and that pay high wages, benefits, and a career path. And on the other end, we work with low-income adults who never had an opportunity to go to college and get started with their career. So we bring this, the employers have employee needs, and the applicants in the community, they want to be able to, for example, become a registered nurse, a surgical technologist, an IT. So that's how what Capital Idea basically works on. I came to doing this kind of work because I was in the education field. I was in the nonprofit working with communities and schools in Laredo, and basically assigned to high school students. And I saw how their parents couldn't be able to be in their education involved as much as they wanted because they have to work more than one job. Eventually, I went into fifth grade education by being a teacher and said, I'm going to get those parents and I'm going to work with them. Well, that didn't happen because the parents of the children I was working with, the students, they were working 2 to 3 jobs to be able to provide for the families. Fast forward, I moved to Austin, and I heard about Capital Idea opening its doors as a nonprofit. And when I heard about the vision and the mission, I said, this is what I've been looking for. And I started working for Capital Idea 25 years ago. I had my own caseload. And since then, I've been growing with the organization, and I manage the operations side of the house. And it has been not just what I will say a job, but it's more like a rewarding experience that I will do it for free if I didn't have to pay bills, right? But it's very rewarding, and we have a great team. It's 30 of us in the organization, and everybody's so passionate, so committed, working with our students and employers and everybody as a community.
Yeah, well, I guess that's like just so that people catch the pattern that like you've been there from like nearly the beginning, and
yes.
You got like the media director kind of position and everything, which I'm sure they greatly appreciate, just that you have this whole kind of context for the whole organization. But like, they are lucky. You're lucky. Like you said, you saw it, at those early stages. It clicked. It resonated. The idea of like, I feel like this is something that's been needed for so long that you wanted to be a part of and everything. So I feel like it was just such a cool, like serendipity kind of moment, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, believe me, when I heard about the organization, I was like, where have they been? And then I found out they were barely creating Capital Idea. And I said, oh my God, this is the right moment. Also because I was able to, with the rest of the team at that time, to just create something from scratch and be able to change it as needed to meet the needs of the students that we're servicing.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure we don't get too ahead of ourselves, and we'll talk about now the work that Capital Idea does. So, I think with what you mentioned, that idea of with so many populations, that idea of sort of like the social capital, like just sort of the wayfinding, the people that you could ask about, like, I know I want to be a registered nurse. I understand you have to get credential and training and stuff to do that, but I don't really know where to start, or maybe like the best place to start for me and kind of, what I'm looking for and everything. So I know that's kind of the little sneak peek we got so far over the work that Capital Idea does. So feel free to kind of go in depth about everything that organization does.
Well, one of the things that I want to add is that aside from being this workforce intermediary, because what we do, we sponsor tuition, books, and fees. We also assist our students with wraparound services. And that is something that is very important, because just paying tuition and providing books is not enough. There are a lot of questions that students have. So what Capital Idea does, we assign a career navigator to every student in our program. And what we say is we walk the walk with them. We try to look for answers together if we don't have them. And then we also collaborate with, in this case, with the higher education institutions like Austin Community College, Temple College, Concordia University, and we try to figure things out so that the students are in the right track for the classes and the courses they need to take. We also assist the students with childcare. A lot of our students are parents. A good number of them are single parents, so this is a service that is very needed for them. We have emergency assistance in the form of assistance with utilities, with mortgage or rent, and the goal is that we don't want any student to have to leave the program because they are not able to catch up with their bills. We know that especially in the Central Texas, it's very expensive to live. So we've been working and trying to be creative on how to help the students and also how to collaborate with other nonprofits in the community that can help us to provide some of those services. So it's kind of a whole package what they get. We also help them with placement. Once they finish, it's like, okay, now it's not a graduation, the end point is starting your career, the end point. And not even the end point because they're barely starting, right?
Right, yeah. Well, that's like
Yes.
the whole thing of like, yeah, it is a win worth celebrating, graduating, from college or, any kind of program like that. But it really is just the beginning of like the next chapter and everything. And that you want to make sure that there's not kind of a unnecessary friction, I guess, at that point, because it could be a lot of like, well, we did, we worked on your resume, we did your LinkedIn profile, we did interviewing
Yes.
skills and all that. And then it's just like, all right, you graduated, good luck. Like we gave you everything.
No,
right?
no.
It's like you want to kind of keep with them to sort of follow through. Because I know, especially like university career services, like that's kind of their approach, because it's also the idea where it's like, I've been talking with other people about those. Like, I don't think they've really kind of figured out to maybe how to like give more kind of personal support at most institutions and kind of the career services space. But if you can kind of speak to that, I guess that idea of sort of the follow through.
We stay with the students for 2 years after graduation so that they not only get placed, but that they are going to be doing well. So we check in and have other mechanisms on how to know that they're still in a good place. We have had a few instances where they come back, reach to us and say, hey, do you know of any opportunities in this field or that field, because I'm ready to change. And sometimes they themselves are already ready to go. They find other opportunities and they keep growing, and a lot of them are also going for higher education. Capital Idea is providing mostly associate degrees, and the students on their own are getting their bachelor's, master's, and even some of them PhDs, which is like, wow, we kind of plant the seed, and then they keep going, and they know that they're very capable of doing more.
Yeah, well, and that's something that I love about this sort of space of like workforce, is that idea where it's like, for sort of the metaphor that you said, like planting that seed, nurturing it, and you get it up to a certain point. And it's like, like plants are pretty hardy, you know, like they can endure a lot, but it's the idea you want to make sure like, okay, they get the degree, they get that first job. And sometimes, it's gainfully employing. So that obviously just has a lot of benefits to just make life easier. But then it could also be where like, okay, you have a job that has an amazing education benefits. If you do want to pursue further credit, like it's just getting as many people over that initial hump. Cause that's really, I think, where a lot of the sort of the curve is, it's just a steep kind of curve to get over of like the first credential, the first good job. And, you see a lot of people talk about that idea. It's like, yeah, if you get kind of in a tough spot of like being kind of underemployed and all that, you kind of have to climb up a little bit more, where it's just like, yeah, I have a bachelor's, but I didn't, have the help maybe to find the right job after I graduate. So I'm not really earning as much as I could or should. So there's so much kind of factors there.
Yeah, one thing that I want to add is that the students may come to us kind of doubting themselves, but after a few semesters and when they see those A's and B's and that high GPA and they get accepted into the, let's say, the registered nursing program or X-ray program, they're like, oh my God, I'm there. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. And we get to celebrate with them those smaller goals. And of course, we're there cheering for them at graduation. That's a big one. The other thing that is very important to also consider when we look at not only higher education and workforce together is the impact that training has had on the students that we work with, because now their children have seen them doing homework or transforming their lives. So the question for the kids now is, are you going to go to college? No. It is more, what college are you going to go? What are you going to become? And it's so fascinating to see all of that.
And I guess, yeah, a nature from what I'm hearing of your organization is like being kind of like a conduit. Because like one, it's like, yeah, you're sort of like giving them everything they need to set them up for success. And then also that, it sort of behooves you, I assume, to be good partners with like other organizations, depending on what that person might need. Like it's not entirely upon your all's shoulders necessarily to do everything. It could be like if there's maybe sort of a unique need, or I'd imagine maybe like capacity things, or it's just like, oh, there's a lot of people that need like childcare stuff. Like, could we try to work with another organization to like do that? So that idea that you were, just so sort of integrated in so many different ways, I guess, with the community and stuff was just kind of cool to hear. But the other thing, though, that I wanted to ask is that, this work, obviously, it's just, people earnestly trying to improve their lives, pursue their goals and all that. But kind of an outcome of this is, increasing diversity in fields like healthcare and tech and everything. So just to kind of like put it plainly, like straight, because it's the idea, like I think on its face, a lot of people are like, yeah, that's great. Why is it so important to increase diversity in fields like those?
I'm going to answer that question with something that one of our employers in the healthcare field shared with me many, many years ago. He said, Eva, I want to tell you that increasing diversity is the right thing to do, but it's beyond that. It is more about he's in a hospital setting as an administrator, and he said, we need people who look like the patients who they're going to be servicing, because that relationship, that trust, that is very important. And into that, it also goes the culture, the language. A lot of these things that patients come, they're sick people coming to the hospitals or different clinics and different places. So he says that's the best way to provide a good service to them. The more we can diversify our employee groups, he says, the better we're going to be able to service our community. And the IT field is something very interesting for us as a Capital Idea, because we hear a lot from employers in that sector that they don't have enough diversity. And we want to be here to exactly not only provide employees, but help them with those challenges that they're facing. So that's where we come in as, okay, what can we do? How do we do it? And how do we make things happen so that they increase that diversity that they're looking for and working together?
Yeah. And that's what I think, too, is like, so many people, it's like on its face, on a moral level, they're like, increasing diversity is important to us. And
yes,
it's just a good thing and the right thing to do. But then, exactly for the reasons that you said, it's like almost if it's like, okay, even if you don't care about like the moral righteousness of this important issue, it's like, hopefully people can get on board where it's like, you're just going to provide better service, and then the idea that with like the advent of AI, how we build these tools matters. So the idea of like, a lot of these tech companies will get a lot of blowback when it's like clear that they just had a massive oversight and sort of blind spot when they were developing it, because there just wasn't diverse viewpoints, and part of the team doing it and everything. So I think, it's that idea of being well connected again of like an organization like yours and, helping those employers to find those folks that they are looking for. But
we've also heard that the diversity in employees also brings different ideas. And that is key for all of these companies that we work with. So that's another reason why let's just keep pushing, right? And we see diversity in so many levels also in terms of even the different groups, some younger than others and things like that, right? So that's why we work really hard and we're very committed to what we do to working with these employers.
And I guess a question I think of too is that, I feel like half the battle is, putting the supports in place and, doing all the things that we've talked about. The other one is trying to do the outreach to, create that access and kind of try to bring people in and understand, like you're saying, like they might kind of start out very, not confident in themselves. They're not sure, if they're able to do things, cut it in just like post-secondary education. Because, that's nowadays, there's a lot of different things that you could do to kind of pursue whatever your career goals are. How do we create better opportunities for access and success, I guess? I mean, you mentioned some of the success parts, so I guess maybe focus more on that access, the outreach, like how you try to bring these people in and know that you're there to help them.
Hey, it's Mallory. Exciting news. I'm hosting the Engage Summit in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, and I'd love to meet you there. Together, we'll dive into the mind of the modern student, what fires them up, how they interact, and what they expect in today's digital age, and how tools like AI help put them in the driver's seat of their education. We have some terrific speakers, including our closing keynote, New York Times best-selling author Jeff Selingo. Sessions will dig into practical ideas and innovative strategies to get your team more student-centered and ready to adopt AI. And many of your favorite Enrollify hosts are presenting too, like Jamie Hunt, Jenny Lee Fowler, and Brian Gross. Use the discount code Enrollify50 for an extra $50 off your registration. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
Well, we do different things. First, we look at also academically, what are their challenges. We have partners, in this case, Austin Community College, Temple College, and Concordia University, who are really open to sit at the table and evaluate. These are the challenges Capital ID is bringing on behalf of their student body. Just as an example, there is a college entrance exam in Texas schools and universities, and we struggle with that. So currently, we're having those conversations. How do we give more access, not only to come into the college, but to complete? Because one thing is as important as the second one, right? So also our outreach efforts are in the different areas and counties and spaces where students, low-income students, are looking for these opportunities. So we're everywhere, also recruiting the students. Again, so that's, I will say, a second area. We also support people where they are. We look at, and we have a very kind of tedious application process, but the intent is to ensure that people are ready to make this long-term commitment with Capital Idea, because it takes about 3.5 years to complete the training. So we ask them a lot of questions. We ask them to take an assessment, a personality assessment, just to make sure that the career of their choice, they're going to be successful at it. And we try to identify anything that could be a barrier so that we can remove it. We don't want to we don't believe in artificial barriers. We're about removing those so that students can be successful, and we do it by collaborating greatly with those higher education institutions, and sometimes even collaborating directly with employers where they might have a specific reason for not offering this kind of opening to the student this particular semester, but then they're like, okay, let me relook into this. Let's do that. Or let's provide part-time opportunities so that they can come to work for us at the same time that they're going for their training. So there are a lot of ways for us to be able to reach out to these students. We just got to be creative and really work very hard with all the parties involved at the table.
Yeah, I guess the partnerships you have to identify these people, but then, it's interesting to hear that sort of intake to understand, okay, who are you? Where do you want to go? What's going on in your life? Because I remember working very different context when I was a coach for students for an online program. And that was part of just our sort of introduction of ourselves and our role and everything. But just we wanted to make sure that we had a quality time scheduled to talk on the phone and understand what are you most excited about? What are you worried about? And, we just kind of jot all that down. And I think it's the idea, some people are just more forthcoming than others, I guess, in that sort of conversational piece. But this is a very valuable sort of thing to be a part of. We want to make sure that you're committed, and we want to make sure that we can support you in the best way possible. So it's
yes.
A little give and take here. We just give us what we need, and then we'll, give it back to you.
It is a conversation. And one of the things we decided to do long time ago, since we started, we've been doing it for almost 25 years, is we never say no to anybody. We just say not yet. Because we want the best, we want to create the best opportunity for the students, but we also want to make sure that they're going to be ready. And if we see that there is something that is not working, and we are pretty upfront with the students also when we have these conversations. So again, it's never a no. It's more a not yet, and we have seen them coming back, which is really great because that they have a plan on how to come back for the services so they can then get started with training.
Yeah, because I think that's something that's come up recently of the idea of like good service of being like, it's not just sort of like, no, you hit a wall, go away or whatever. No. It's like, not yet. It's like, I can't help you now, but what I can do for you is if you like, kind of keep busy, being productive and doing these other things, and we'll be here for you. It's one of those things too, where it's just like you said, it's like we never say no outright to people. And it's the idea is like, we would love to help everybody immediately all the time, always, but it's like, there's just realities of just kind of constraints and everything. And I guess it's like a clarification too. Like, do you have like donors that help fund, or how's the sort of like infrastructure of like making this happen? Because I think like that's part of it is sometimes it's like, well, we need to kind of keep doing the work to keep proving the FSC to kind of get more sort of like support and everything. Like what's sort of like that kind of structure look like, I guess, to sort of keep kind of doing the work and getting support for the work and that kind of thing?
Well, it's a balance. Let's just put it that way. We do have private and public funders. So we do have to meet some expectations on an ongoing basis, especially on a fiscal year basis. But we also put the way we look at things and evaluate things is the student is front and center all the time. We're not going to bring 1,000 students or offer our services to students and make promises that we cannot keep. So we have to be careful. How many students can we service? What resources do we have? How can we do this? And also at the same time, be able to meet the expectations of the commitments we're making with the funders that we're working with. So it's, like I said, it's a balance. And after 25 years, you kind of have a formula on how to do that. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we have a sense of, okay, this is how many students we can bring to the program, we can commit, and we are going to be successful getting them through the ending point and helping them start their career. So it is not easy because some of the, especially public funders, are more restricted on what we can do or not do. We come to the table and negotiate as possible. Private funders, of course, work very differently, but they do complement each other. That's the other good thing about it, working with both. And we couldn't do this work without both of them. Yeah. We need them. So because they also understand where we're coming from. And they understand that long-term training is going to be 3 years and a half to get our students. So they have been patient and willing to work with us for that long to be able to get a student from point A to point B, but also knowing that we are taking a student to self-sufficiency, which that also benefits our community, our economy, because then those students become taxpayers themselves.
Yeah. So certainly from the public side, the ROI on that, yes. Okay, we're giving support and, we'll get it back twofold or something. But that I think of if there's anything, I guess maybe you could share on that. Cause I think that's what I'm thinking of too, is that if we're evaluating how to try to maybe do this as quickly as possible or something, there's existing organizations that are already working, and if it's just going to okay, can we up the throttle a little bit on trying to get more results or something? Because I guess I'm thinking of a couple of different things. One where it's we're deliberately not just trying to grow as quickly as possible. Okay, we're a nonprofit organization trying to work in the space and support people long term. But certainly, like you said, you have certain constraints, or you want to make sure that you're being sort of intentional with supporting students with what they need. So I guess what's your thought on that of say public funding increased and everything, and in the return on the investment, what are those sort of dynamics, I guess, of the work and how you try to maximize your impact, I guess?
Well, one of the things that I say is that we can grow as much as we can based on the funding that we receive, right? That's a no-brainer. But we also have to be careful that we keep, again, the students and the quality of the training and the services in front of us. Now, in terms of our return on investment, Ray Marshall Center has been evaluating us for many, many years. And just recently, they evaluated Capital Idea. They updated, actually, an evaluation of the Capital Idea cohort. And they're sharing with us that each dollar invested in Capital Idea training is associated with returns to taxpayers of $6.99 over a 20-year period. So you can see that the annualized return on investment for the 20-year period is estimated at about 34% for the taxpayers. So it's huge. I mean, it's big for us, and we're very proud of that return on the investment because it says that it's working and that our students are definitely in a better place than when they came to us. And that was exactly what this capital idea model was all about 25 years ago when it was barely in implementation. So seeing it in action and knowing that it's working is not only making us proud, but telling us that this is the way to go and just keep at it. Do we want to keep growing? Yes. We have been expanding. Right now, we service 5 counties in our area in Central Texas. Can we expand right now? Because of resources, we're not able, but we would like to, definitely. And we'll continue to work at it.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking out loud of connecting the dots of like, okay, you sort of have this proof of concept, and knowing where it's like, yeah, we, like you said, kind of have like a formula. You kind of know how best to kind of do this work. More funding means more impact. And just that idea of like, believing that certainly like public dollars and the idea of like investing in kind of the public good, that return, every dollar maybe that you would get in budget from your local government or state government, just pays off those amazing dividends. So one of my last questions here, I think just is about kind of your approach. If folks have been listening to some of our recent episodes that we've been doing here, it's a lot around kind of this hybrid frontier that higher education is interfacing with and trying to get kind of the best of both worlds of maybe digital education and in-person kind of local efforts to support students, because obviously their lives are where they are and stuff like you mentioned, like childcare or anything else they need to have where they are. So how do you see that breakdown of like your strategy of that interplay of trying to leverage, digital education opportunities with, the very on the ground personal kind of support and personal touch, I guess, that you can try to give to your efforts?
I'm going to speak from the experience on our students and the career tracks that we train for or that we sponsor in this case. And especially since the pandemic, we've seen the advantages of the digital education, being able to do a lot of work online. Because of the career tracks in healthcare, I don't want to say that's impossible. A hybrid is in existence for some of those careers already, and I do believe it will continue to stay because it does help the students, especially it allows them to not worry about transportation, not especially here coming to Austin every day, traffic and all of those things, and the cost of also gas and putting gas in their cars. So I do believe those hybrids are going to stay, and they have been successful. The college has been doing a very good job on that. Now, will there be an 100% healthcare career track that can be online? I'm not sure. I don't know, because I do know that it's important that the students are getting hands-on experience in the hospital settings. They call them clinical rotations. So from that perspective, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, and I wouldn't want it to change because I want a really great trained nurse when I'm there needing those services, right? Yep. So now in terms of IT, it's probably more doable. And we've seen and have heard about some of those classes going not 100%, but probably closer to that level. But the other thing that we need to take into account here is the student. How do the students learn best? If the student has needs that will be best suitable for face-to-face, by all means, let's just do that and offer that to the students. If they're okay with online and they're being successful, then I don't see a problem. One of the things that we're doing also is looking at the new students' experience in college. And because of what we need them to learn and how some of them are really ready to, with a lot of tips and I will say skills on how to learn, how to study, how to be successful. But some students don't have those skills. Because of that reason, we're asking them to come face-to-face at least the first semester or so. Once they pick up those skills, I believe they should be allowed the opportunity to choose what works best for them. So it's not a one blanket approach. I think we need to evaluate, and the students also letting us know where they are at. Not only that their preference is, I don't want to drive to the campus. It's more, are you being successful doing this work at home or whatever you want to do it instead of coming to the campus. Mm-hmm. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, I think it matters by program. What's the content being taught? It depends on, the individual student. So I think in my head, it's that idea of like, we have options now. Like it can be flexible depending on those preferences or needs. And just creating educational programs that are more like, I think the term like agile gets kind of thrown around, where I think of it from like my background, where you might have like a college university that creates like an MBA program, it's created on ground and then they create an online one later. And hopefully at a certain point, it's just the MBA program. Like it used to, like it'd be very sort of starkly separated and different. And now it just being like you're an MBA student, and even just maybe like, term to term, you can like switch up the modality. But yeah, it sounds like you kind of want to strive towards that, given the student is successful and that sort of thing. But the idea that like, yeah, that can be important for their ongoing success to like not have to, deal with like traffic or any of those other kind of mitigating things. So yeah, I think it's the beautiful place that we're at, that we can kind of achieve a good hybrid blend and balance. Yeah.
Yeah, but we also had to be careful that we're not saying do everything online and then what are the skills that person will be missing? What are the soft skills that employers are looking for, that because we didn't have the opportunity to have you in the classroom working as a team or interacting or building relationships, networking, are we missing that? I don't have an answer, but that's definitely something to continue to evaluate and look at.
Yeah, it definitely can be kind of a slippery slope where you can kind of get like a sense of inertia if it's just sort of like, well, I'm just doing all the classes online, I'll just keep doing that. And it's like, maybe throw like an in-person one in there, or have some sort of aspect where you like meet up with your classmates, or it could even be that idea of like, okay, well, fine, like courses online, if that works for you, but like make space and time for like getting out. And like, I think of that now where if I worked from home and remotely for a long time, I so much value like coming out to events like this and, doing these interviews and networking and, that's being in community with other educators and stuff is just so valuable to me. So I'd really try to be kind of strategic with the once a month, come out to like an event like this or just other like local things. But yeah, so I think that's like an important thing where it can be hard to maybe like quantify and say like, okay, once a month you need to do this or that. Like it's just like you'd want to, like you said, just keep an eye towards it because like doing it never is like the wrong answer. It's it's like, well, as long as you do it this many times, then you're going to be like good to go, whatever.
I think instructors also, I believe they are incorporating more of those activities when they know that they're having online courses because they know that otherwise the students may not go that route. And sometimes, if I'm a student, it's like, why should I worry, right? But it is important. So
yeah. So I think it's good advice, I think, for just anyone else that is working in an educational context, really, higher ed or whatever else, just like resist the temptation or the demand of students where that might be steering you towards like more and more digital everything. It's like that has its place to sort of augment and supplement like just the human interaction, the community and all this sort of thing. So I think good call out there. We will wrap up with our question that we always end with. Just kind of giving you the opportunity, giving you the floor to wrap up the episode, call to action, final thought. However you'd like to end everything, the floor is yours.
I would say the call to action will be to just work with more employers because we say we want to diversify workforce, but sometimes how do we prioritize really thinking how do we want that diversified workforce? We are at the table working with great employers. Can we all in different states, not only here in Texas, but can we all just make that happen for the benefit of our community? Because we need that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that could be the idea of literally getting around the table together or, maybe using an event like South by EDU to kind of, bring those voices and those perspectives and those different kind of stakeholders together to just kind of keep building on that. Because I think it's even that idea that it might be companies that are mostly or entirely remote, like finding value and being like, okay, I'm going to come together in some sort of, fashion to talk with folks where it's like, hey, Capital Idea is doing amazing work. Like I'm not based here. I'm based nowhere, everywhere, whatever. But like, this is important to me. So I'm going to make it a priority and make the time and space to try to build those connections and everything. So I think that is a very good call to action. Call out to all those employers out there to kind of live up to their, I think, espoused values and make those connections happen. So we'll have ways to connect with you and Capital Idea in the description for the episode. And just thank you so much for hanging out.
Well, thank you.
The Hired Geek Podcast is a part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances you like all the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing constantly, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better hired professional. Our shows help you find your next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from people like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Dave Kibbolds, and Eddie Francis, as well as so many other of your favorite leaders in higher education. Enrollify is made possible by the support of Element 451, a leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.